Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about all of the changes that have come to competitive Call of Duty with Black Ops 3, and there have been some major changes to how competitive COD is played, and a little bit to competitive FPSs in general. The gameplay you're seeing right now is Advanced Warfare. I'm playing on the PlayStation 4, which is important because competitive is moving to PS4, and you can see me shoot some people and slay a little bit here in Momentum with the Obsidian Steed, but the biggest change to competitive Call of Duty is with the new Ban and Protect system. There's always been this sort of tug-of-war between competitive players that liked banning lots of things that they viewed as being uncompetitive, and we'll say pub stars or general like average gamers and developers that feel that their game is balanced and that if you're going to be competitive or professional, then you need to play the game with all of the items that are in the game. And there's kind of been a tug-of-war on less bans, more bans, specific bans, whatever, and they needed to have a middle ground, and in this instance, I think Vaughn said it best, so I'm just going to quote him straight from the stream here.
There's always this pretty large and sometimes contentious sort of idea about what should be restricted. What do you consider competitive? What do you consider anti-competitive? And how does all that work? But restricting game content actually takes the game and sort of pushes it further away from how the vast majority of people actually play the game, where they play with everything. So it's on us as developers to properly balance the game for sure. It's on all of us who are interested in eSports to promote a real healthy ecosystem where the public game and the competitive game can be as similar to one another as possible.
And the team at Treyarch decided that the best way to handle this is to implement the ban and protect system to where each player gets to choose to either ban a specific item from the game or protect an item from being banned so that it can be used by whoever on their team wants to use it or whatever strategy they want to employ. They can ban any weapon, any attachment, any kill streak, or any specialist. Not the specialist, the whole person, but they can ban a specialist ability or a specialist weapon. I guess if they wanted to ban both the ability and the weapon, they could take out the specialist, but that's 2 of your total bans out of 4, because it's 4v4, so you either get to protect 4 things or ban 4 things, and you take turns doing it. It's not all at once, the top 2 guys on the team, then the next, and then the next, and the next, and you just kind of like a little strategy and metagame kind of going on, a lot like League of Legends. Watching this reminded me a whole lot of the draft mode or ranked mode in League of Legends where you get to ban certain champions and then take turns picking different things. It works a lot like that, but of course more Call of Duty oriented, and I think it's a good thing. I think that's a very good solution between pros that don't want to deal with UAVs and plant and forget explosives, and people at home that want to see a game that's familiar to what they're playing with in public matches, and for those of us that are pub stars or just general average gamers that believe that if you're competitive, you should play the game how it is made and not just ban everything in the world. This is a really good compromise between the two, and I think that's good, but that's not all, because we have specialists in Black Ops 3, and they can do a variety of, we'll say, unusual things. How do you balance specialist for competitive, or especially in game modes where, say, one certain specialist might be better than others, like Ruin, because he has overdrive and he can run faster with the flag or the ball or anything like that in Uplink, which it's coming back, we'll talk about that later. So they implemented a specialist draft system, which again works similar to League and other type of hero-based games, where each team gets to pick only one version of each specialist. And I want to say this in a very particular way. By one version, you can only take one specialist perk, or my bad, ability or weapon for a said player. So if I wanted to just, let's say, pick Reaper and use the Scythe, I can be the only person on my team with the Scythe. Nobody else can be the Scythe. Another person can also pick Reaper and use his Psychosis ability, which sends kind of annoying clones out at people, but another person can't be the Scythe. Or if we all wanted, a very common one is that they would pick Ruin and they would pick his overdrive ability, and that person would be the dedicated OBJ player for flags, for bombs, for balls, or anything like that. Or for Search and Destroy, there was this big thing. I think they banned Seraph's see-through wall vision ability, and they were really heavily on rejack, so you can come back to life, and glitch, so you can go around corners. But only one person on each team could get it, so they had to discuss with each other who should have it. And again, it's not that both teams can have it, so each team can have one of each, and I think it's a really good system, and it prevents any overpowered specialist ability from being abused. You won't see 4 of each specialist on the same team, or 4 of each ability, or everybody running overdrive or rejack or whatever one that's considered, you know, the best at the time, because in competitive play you can only pick one, and that's just kind of how it goes. And I think these 2 additions radically change competitive Call of Duty, because previously it was just do whatever you want, run whatever class you want, use whatever items you want. You would have your gentleman's agreements or your official bans or whatever, but other than that you'd see a lot of same. In Black Ops 2 you'd see M8A1, AN94, and MSMC, a little bit of other things. Advanced Warfare is pretty much BAL ASM1, and that's almost just exclusively it because it's the best. But now you could just ban things. Like in AW, you could just ban the BAL, and that completely upends in the metagame, and everybody has to be good with every weapon because it could be banned, and they did. They banned weapons that they knew one person on the other team would be really good with, and I think that's a good change for competitive Call of Duty. A few other things, Uplink returns and still plays well. It's a little bit slower because Black Ops 3 is a little bit slower than AW, but it still plays very well. Uplink was a fantastic mode. It never really caught on very much for public matches, but it was awesome for competitive, awesome to watch. And it seems to be that the players have less armor when they're carrying the satellite or the ball. They just seem to drop faster. Like in AW, they tank bullets. This one, they seem to be a little bit weaker. They still have armor. It just, I don't think it was very useful. And there's a possibility of the search and destroy round limit being reduced. So previously, like a couple weeks ago, Vandahar was on Twitter talking about reducing the round limit, or the score to win limit to 4, which would therefore be a 7-round limit, and said that, you know, in public matches that's probably how it would run. They were unsure about competitive. When they played at Gamescom, they played search and destroy, but they did it to a 4-round win limit, and they said that it was be for time constraints because they only had about an hour and a half streaming schedule, and they didn't want it to spend the whole time on search and destroy and take forever, etc., etc. So they cut it down a little bit. We don't know if it's going to be going back to the 6-round limit for competitive play or stay at the 4. Either way is fine by me. And search and destroy plays a lot different with the specialist abilities. You generally get 1 or 2 throughout the entire time that you play search and destroy. So when to employ your special abilities is now like a core part of search and destroy, like a core part of the S&D metagame. So that's a little bit differently. And lastly, it's PS4 all the way. There were shameless PS4 plugs throughout the entire announcement. Games, discs, thank you. The pro players that played got free PS4s. I'm not sure if the audience got them or not. I kind of tuned out a little bit at that point, but as from everything I can tell, we're going to be playing competitive Call of Duty on PS4 next year. So if you're a Sony pony, well, you're prepared. Good for you. If you're an ex-bro, you might have to swap over to PS4 if you want to be playing competitive COD. Guys, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.